Judge Emily Carter was known for her reputation as a tough, no-nonsense figure in the courtroom. Though many respected her for her fairness, it was also whispered that she had a tendency to let her assumptions cloud her judgments. Her decisions carried weight, and she often wielded her authority like a gavel over the lives of those who stood before her. This particular Monday morning was no exception. Judge Carter walked into her courtroom with an aura of confidence that bordered on impenetrability. Today, she had no reason to think it would be any different until Aaron Blake walked through the door. The case seemed simple. Aaron Blake, a man accused of damaging property in an upscale neighborhood, had come to face the charges. Judge Carter briefly scanned the file. The complainant, Mr. Peterson, described Aaron as a menacing figure who had disregarded all rules. To Judge Carter, it seemed like an open-and-shut case, another troublemaker who needed to be taught a lesson. As Aaron made his way to the defendant's table, Judge Carter eyed him coldly. He was calm, his posture respectful, and yet she already had a sinking feeling she knew how this story ended. "Mr. Blake," Judge Carter began, her voice echoing through the courtroom, "you stand accused of property damage in a private neighborhood. This community prides itself on upholding the rules, and your behavior is in clear violation." Her gaze hardened, daring him to challenge her. Aaron remained unfazed. His face remained composed, his demeanor respectful. "Your Honor, I believe there has been a misunderstanding," he said calmly. Judge Carter frowned. "A misunderstanding? The evidence presented by Mr. Peterson is clear. You are being fined $100,000 for damages." Her tone left no room for doubt. Aaron looked up, unshaken. "With all due respect, Your Honor, I had permission to be on that property, and I did not cause any damage. I am willing to present my documentation to support this." There was a steadiness to his voice that caught the attention of the entire courtroom. Judge Carter was clearly not impressed. "Permission? For what? Exactly? Are you trying to tell me you were there for legitimate reasons?" she asked, almost mocking in tone. Aaron nodded. "Yes, Your Honor. I am a federal prosecutor. I was on that property as part of an ongoing investigation." The courtroom went silent, the murmurs among the audience dying out in an instant. Judge Carter's eyes narrowed as she studied him, her expression momentarily faltering before hardening once more. "A federal prosecutor, you say?" she repeated, trying to keep her voice steady. "Yes, Your Honor. I have the documentation right here, and I would appreciate the opportunity to present it," Aaron replied, still polite. Judge Carter hesitated, then waved a dismissive hand. "Very well. Proceed." Aaron handed a file to his attorney, who approached the bench. Judge Carter flipped through the papers, her face growing more guarded with every page. The documents were official, bearing clear authorizations signed by the property management company and Aaron's federal department. They provided irrefutable evidence that he was, in fact, on the property for a legitimate investigation. Judge Carter's fingers tightened around the documents, her jaw clenched. She looked up, unwilling to concede. "Mr. Blake, permission aside, you seem to have disrespected the community's rules and caused unrest. The complainant, Mr. Peterson, insists you were there without his knowledge and caused significant damage." Aaron met her gaze evenly. "Your Honor, I would like to call witnesses who can verify that no damage was done and that my presence there was entirely lawful," he said. Judge Carter could sense the courtroom's gaze on her, scrutinizing her every move. She gave a reluctant nod. "Very well, you may proceed." The first witness was Lisa Torres, a member of Aaron's team. She took the stand confidently and spoke in a clear voice. She described how they had conducted themselves professionally, ensuring their investigation did not interfere with the community in any way. They had taken photographs, documented every step, and had been careful to respect the property. "Are you prepared to testify that no damage occurred?" Judge Carter pressed, her voice laced with skepticism. "Absolutely, Your Honor," Lisa replied without a hint of doubt. Next, Aaron's attorney called Frank Mitchell, an experienced investigator. He corroborated Lisa's testimony, emphasizing that at no point had Mr. Peterson, the complainant, even been present during the investigation. His testimony was thorough, leaving no room for speculation. Judge Carter's expression grew increasingly tense. The weight of evidence was undeniable, and yet she was hesitant to back down. She eyed the back of the courtroom as Mr. Peterson stood up, looking flustered and defensive. He walked to the stand, his face reddened with determination. "Mr. Peterson, you claimed there was damage," Judge Carter said, her eyes sharp. "Please tell us exactly what you saw." Mr. Peterson shifted uncomfortably. I didn't see it directly. My assistant informed me about the damages. He showed me some pictures," he stammered. Aaron's attorney leaned forward. "Is your assistant present here today? Can he corroborate your claims?" Mr. Peterson hesitated, his eyes darting nervously. "No, he's not here today, but I trust his word." "So, your testimony is based entirely on secondhand information, with no direct evidence?" Aaron's attorney asked, his voice calm. "Well, yes, but," Mr. Peterson started, but the lawyer cut him off. "Are you aware, Mr. Peterson, that Mr. Blake had full permission from both your property management company and the Department of Justice to be on that property?" Mr. Peterson looked stunned, his mouth opening and closing without a word. The courtroom remained deathly silent as the tension grew palpable. Judge Carter cleared her throat, her discomfort clear to everyone present. She turned back to Aaron. "Mr. Blake, after reviewing the evidence and hearing the testimonies, it appears that the case against you is severely lacking. I hereby dismiss all charges. You are free to go." Aaron bowed his head respectfully. "Thank you, Your Honor." But as Judge Carter was about to adjourn the proceedings, Aaron's attorney spoke up once again. "Your Honor, in light of the false claims made against my client, we would like to request an investigation into Mr. Peterson for filing misleading allegations." Gasps filled the room. Judge Carter hesitated, glancing at Mr. Peterson, whose face had turned a ghostly shade of pale. She nodded slowly. "Given the circumstances, I find it appropriate to recommend that Mr. Peterson's actions be further investigated. Making false claims is a serious matter, particularly when it involves an officer of the federal government. This court is adjourned." The sound of the gavel echoed in the room, and within moments, the courtroom began to empty. Whispers filled the air as people spoke in hushed tones about the unexpected turn of events. Aaron gathered his belongings, his attorney giving him a reassuring smile. Justice had prevailed today, and he had emerged victorious, his dignity intact. As Aaron stepped outside, he found himself facing a crowd of reporters eager for a statement. He paused, then spoke, his voice clear and steady. "Justice was served today. The truth only needs a little light to shine through." With that, he turned and walked away, leaving behind a courtroom that had learned a valuable lesson in fairness and humility. Outside the courthouse, Aaron's attorney, James Porter, caught up with him. "You handled that incredibly well, Aaron," James said, clapping him on the shoulder. "Most people would have lost their cool under that kind of pressure." Aaron smiled faintly. "I've learned that keeping calm is the only way to deal with situations like this. The truth will always come to light, eventually." James nodded in agreement. "Still, we should keep an eye on the investigation into Mr. Peterson. He seemed too eager to push false claims without proper evidence. This isn't the first time we've seen people like him try to abuse the system." Aaron sighed. "You're right. People like that need to be held accountable, not just for me, but for everyone who could be unfairly targeted in the future." As they made their way to the car, a reporter rushed up, microphone in hand. "Mr. Blake, what are your thoughts on the investigation being opened into Mr. Peterson? Do you think he'll face charges?" Aaron paused, choosing his words carefully. "I think the facts speak for themselves. This isn't about revenge. It's about ensuring that justice is served and that no one is above the law, not even those who think they can manipulate it for their own purposes." James added, "We have faith in the justice system, and we trust that the investigation will uncover the truth, just as it did today." The reporter nodded, scribbling down their statements before stepping back. Aaron and James continued to the car, the weight of the day slowly lifting off their shoulders. It wasn't easy standing up against unfounded accusations, but Aaron knew it was necessary. Later that evening, Aaron returned home, feeling a sense of relief wash over him. His wife, Maria, greeted him at the door, her eyes filled with concern. "How did it go?" she asked, wrapping her arms around him. Aaron kissed her forehead. "It went well. The charges were dropped, and an investigation into Peterson has been recommended. Justice was done." Maria smiled, her eyes shining with pride. "I knew you'd make it through. You always do." Aaron hugged her tighter. "It wasn't just me. It was the team, the evidence, and the truth. I just hope this makes people think twice before making baseless accusations." Maria nodded. "I'm just glad you're home." She led him to the kitchen, where dinner was waiting. "Come on, you deserve a break after everything you've been through." As they sat down to eat, Aaron looked out the window, the events of the day still playing in his mind. He knew this wasn't the last time he would face challenges in his line of work, but today had reminded him why he did what he did. Justice wasn't always easy, but it was worth fighting for every single time. The next morning, Aaron received a call from James. "Just got word from the district attorney's office. They're moving forward with the investigation into Peterson. Looks like he's going to have to answer for his actions." Aaron nodded, a sense of satisfaction settling in. Good. People need to understand that there are consequences for lying and manipulating the system. James chuckled. "I have a feeling this case is going to set a precedent. Maybe ITLL make people think twice before trying something like this again." Aaron smiled. "Let's hope so. One step at a time, right?" "Exactly," James replied. "Anyway, I just wanted to share the good news. I'll keep you updated as things progress." "Thanks, James. I appreciate it," Aaron said before hanging up. As he put down the phone, Aaron felt a renewed sense of purpose. He knew there was still much work to be done, but today at least, justice had been served. And that was enough to keep him going. He took a deep breath, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing that as long as he stood for the truth, he could handle anything that came his way.